Welcome to the Business Spotlight Series. My name's Mark McNulty, and I'm president of Action Coach Bluegrass in Southern Indiana. Today, I have Larry Forman, who is CEO of Forman and Associates, as my guest. We're going to be talking to Larry about his business, his journey to business ownership, his challenges, best practices, and share a peek into what it's really like to build and operate a business. If this is your first time on the channel, be sure to like and subscribe so you get notifications when new interviews like this drop. So welcome, Larry.
Thanks for having me, Mark. How are you?
I'm doing great today. Thanks. So to kind of kick us off, tell our listeners a little bit about you and your practice.
Sure. So I started my practice back in 2013, the year I graduated law school. Before that, I was a major in philosophy. I went to the University of Louisville undergrad, University of Louisville Law School, back to back. I was what they call a traditional student. I think they call it K through JD. I learned that term recently, as a matter of fact. And I did something very unusual, something that most students graduating with their JD and passing the bar, getting their law license, don't do. And that is I hung up my own shingle right out of the gate. No real mentor at the time, no real structure at the time, no real business knowledge. I mean, I had the basics of the law. And of course, we all know in law school, they do not teach you how to run a business unless you take some courses on it, which I did, and how to draft motions and all of that. So you kind of had to learn all of that on the fly, but that is everybody. But yeah, I took the risk. I started my own practice on October 4th, 2013, right after I found out that I officially am licensed to practice law in the state of Kentucky.
Okay, awesome. What's your current role in your practice? Like all owners, you probably wear multiple hats, right?
Of course. I am, I guess it would be CEO, CFO, and CMO, Chief Marketing, Chief Executive, and Chief Financial Officer. Those are my primary roles. I manage the firm. I manage our associates and our of counsel, obviously on a limited basis. And my primary day-to-day is salesmanship. When clients call, I am the third line of defense. First, we have our answering service. Our answering service picks up the call and they vet the information. So just to make sure it's not a solicitor or just somebody looking for something unrelated to law. Maybe they got the wrong law firm. So we don't spend our time with people who we have absolutely zero interest to talk to and who have zero interest to talk to us unless they are trying to sell us something, in which case it's one-sided. And then once we have the basic details of their case, they're passed on to our case manager, Stephanie Kelly, and she is actually a licensed non-practicing attorney. She just got tired of the gig and she wanted to be in the law field. She wanted to remain in the law field. So she helps us. She's our case manager. That is her official title. For the month of February, we actually did a promotion because February, kind of like any restaurant, any bar who on Tuesdays will have happy hour that maybe extend a little bit longer because business is really slow on Tuesdays. Business is really slow in February for us. So I decided in order to cast a wider net and to talk to more people, I am doing free consultations for the rest of the month of February. And so normally we charge consultations. And the only reason I do that is because it is very difficult to be able to call everybody back because we have a reputation, a very strong reputation, and we get a lot of phone calls. We get a lot of people interested to talk to me. And there's only so much of me to go around, Mark. And I am the point guard. I am the salesman. I am the salesperson in our firm. I'm the only one in the firm who personally quotes every single individual who comes through our door, what it's going to cost, what the fee is, and what we can do for them. So consultation fees simply allow us to be able to realistically handle the volume that comes through our door. So February, I will say, has been very difficult because I'm talking to 100% of the phone calls coming in, but I don't regret it. It reminds me of days of yore when I did have to do that. And I would have 17 phone calls in the morning and I would have to return them in the afternoon as 17 more came through, a very difficult task, but very doable. It's a good reminder. Let's just put it that way.
Oh, awesome. So I know as a law firm, you're not allowed to specialize in anything.
Correct.
However, you have areas of focus. So I want to come back to, I know you've come up with a way to deal with that specializing, and I want to come back to that. But first, share what are the practice areas that you focus on?
We focus on 3 areas:
Okay.
DUI defense, criminal law generally, and personal injury car accidents,
Okay.
and some wrongful death. Those are fairly rare, thank goodness, because that means a death has occurred, but it's a subcategory of our personal injury part of our practice. So I actually have 3 separate business entities. They're all under the umbrella of Forman and Associates. Each one has their own website. So if you go to formanandassociateslaw.com, formanandassociateslaw.com, there are 3 links to 3 separate websites. LarryFormanLaw.com, which is our DUI guy website. This is the specialty focus area, whatever you want to call it, on DUI law. Then we have the misdemeanor and ticket clinic. That's the general criminal, misdemeanor, felony, etc. cases. And we have the car crash guy. That is the new one that I branded. I started it like 5 or 6 years ago, but I didn't start aggressively marketing it until a couple of years ago. So our commercials are everywhere. People may have seen them, and it's the "want more cash when you get in a crash" type, very memorable jingle. It's easy to remember, and we're hoping that will eventually bring in a lot of clients who need help in that arena, because we are very good at what we do based on our client reviews.
Awesome. So tell me a little bit about how the DUI guy came about.
So the DUI guy, as most good ideas, are stolen. I did not come up with him. So as I already alluded to this in the beginning of this interview, during law school, I took a course, and it was called Law Practice Management, taught by a guy, I think his name was John Adams. It was a very apt, very American name. I'm pretty sure that was his name. He was our professor, and he was a practicing attorney. I think still is, as far as I can remember. I kept in contact with him a little bit. But anyway, he taught us a lot. But the one thing that I really, really took from his course is something that he called a competitive marketing analysis, I think is what it's called. Where basically you find your competitors and all that. The long and short of it is, Mark, here's how it went down. I wanted to stand out, and I didn't know how to do it. The word brand, as a 25-year-old, I was a K through JD student. So I was always school. I never worked outside the family. I like to joke around that I never made a dime outside the family, which is true. I never had to want for anything. I always had a bed, I always had food on the table, and I always had a roof over my head. Those were the 3 things that were always provided to me. So I never wanted for anything. So I was able to build a practice. That maybe one of the reasons I was able to plunge in, with negative $100 and whatever $1,000 in debt and build a practice out of nothing, is because of that. My parents allowed me that opportunity. My family allowed me that opportunity. So I was doing a lot of research back then, trying to figure out what am I going to specialize in? Because back then I wanted to do white collar crime. And I realized that's a really hard, really difficult area of law to break into, because these are millionaires, multimillionaires. They're not going to hire a fresh grad out of law school with no experience under his belt and a resume devoid of he worked for the Department of Public Advocacy. He worked for a judge. He clerked for this judge. He worked for the Commonwealth Attorney's Office. I mean, I had nothing. I had nothing to offer in that arena. It was all criminal stuff. And so I realized I need to do something. And how do I stand out? So I started figuring things out. The first thing I noticed, the American Bar Association has a list, and these are their own words, not mine, a specialty types of areas of law. And they have, IP lawyers who specialize in IP work, trademark law, white collar crime, et cetera, et cetera. And on the list, something that I completely never expected was DUIs. In 2008, the American Bar Association, was 06 or 08, the American Bar Association called driving under the influence. Some states it's different. You have OUI, operating under the influence,
Right.
DWI. It's all the same thing across all 50 states. They said this is a specialty area of law. And I said, what? Why? They don't have, there's no robbery on the list. You don't have well, I'm the robbery guy. Well, probably not the best way to brand yourself. I'm the robbery guy is not a lawyer you probably want to come to, because he'll open your wallet, take your money, and not represent you on your case, I suppose. But short of joking around, I mean, there were no other specialties. Maybe murder was one, but even the American Bar Association did not recognize that as a specialty type of law. And you can look this up, and it blew my mind. So I started doing research. I found the DUI man in Florida. There was the DUI dude in Texas. He went to prison, but that's another story. I found the DUI guys, plural, in California. There was another DUI guy in Wisconsin, I believe, one in Ohio, one in Georgia. And I'm like, wait a minute, is there one in Kentucky? Search. There is no the DUI guy in Kentucky. And we're not in competition with one another, even though the DUI guys trademarked, the California folks, they trademarked their name, I think in 2006. I can't remember when it was exactly. But because I was not in competition with any of them, I could brand within the Commonwealth of Kentucky and practice and use that brand. And nobody came after me and said, you are not allowed to, like some lawyers I could mention here in town who tried to brand and steal brands from others, and they got hurt by it and had to change their brand. I mean, my day may come, it may not. I don't know when that day, if and when it does come, I will simply rebrand. I have no qualms about it. I've been doing great so far. This is year 11. And again, I am not competing with any of the other DUI guy, DUI man, DUI guys, DUI dudes of our country. So I took that idea and I ran with it. And that was the way to legally, lawfully, and without being in violation of the Kentucky Bar Association rules, where you just said in the beginning of this interview, you are not allowed in Kentucky to say, we specialize. You can't say that word. You're not permitted to use that word, and for right reasons, because everybody would start specializing in the same stuff and clients would be driven mad. But there's nothing about branding. There are no rules about how to brand yourself. You're permitted to call yourself whatever you want. Again, as long as you don't, I guess if you rename your firm DUI specialty firm, now you're in trouble. You use that word. But I took what was already given, what was already used by others across our nation in various states. And I said, okay, the DUI guy, I took it and I ran with it. And the rest, I guess, is history.
Okay, that's awesome. So other than your marketing, which, one of the things that stands out to me when I look at your website and your online presence is that you get that you have to market your practice.
Yes.
You don't just sit and, wait for the phone to ring.
No.
You're proactively marketing. So other than that, what are some other things you do to stand out from your competitors?
Oh, goodness. We have a very active YouTube channel as we approach 500,000 subscribers. I'm trying to get to that million. We already got our silver play button, which you get at 100,000 subscribers. And we are on our way to our gold button, which you get at 1 million subscribers. And I think diamond is 10 million. So that's coming later. And we have a 250 million, that's billion with a B, views on our channel. So if you really want to think about it, it's almost like one out of every 16 people on the planet have seen our channel, which is kind of mind-blowing to really think about. It's not an accurate statement, but it's just to put it into perspective. It's 1 out of every 16 people who walk this earth would have seen the channel. I mean, I still can't wrap my head around it. It's really insane how much we have exploded over the years, because we provide educational content on our channel. And it's, when I say our, I mean, it's mine. It's my baby. Again, I built her from scratch and I started with 0 subscribers. There was one time when I had none. It took about 5 years for me to even start pumping content into it. But our YouTube channel, which is the DUI Guy Plus, And we kind of took that whole Disney concept because we are the DUI guy. Plus, we also do wrongful death, car accidents, criminal law. So it's not like, oh, you're the DUI guy. You just do DUIs. No, no,
Right.
no. I am the DUI guy plus. So that's the rebrand of our original brand, I suppose you could say, under the umbrella of Forman and Associates, which is the firm. Now, we also have a TikTok channel under the same name with 64,000 subscribers. We have a Twitter, now X page with 1/8 of a million followers. So it's like 126,000, I think is what we're at now. Those are the primary three. And then, of course, we have a Facebook page. We have a Twitch account. For those of you who don't know Twitch, it's mostly people playing video games, playing music, or just chatting. And then Instagram and all those. But like these collectively, we have like 10,000 across 4 different platforms. So our big 3 are YouTube, TikTok, and X.
Okay, so that's on the marketing side, which is a lot, and you've done a lot. I've seen your YouTube channel, and you've got some great educational material on there. So what about the delivery of services? I see some great reviews, testimonials from happy clients. What do you do to stand out as a practicing law firm?
I make it a mission, and I teach every single associate from the first second they come on to the firm and begin working as an associate for Forman and Associates as a junior associate. This is my spiel. Your number 1 priority is the client. Your number 2 priority is the client. Your number 3 priority is the client. And I literally go through to about number 7. Number 7 priority is the client. At this point, they look at me like, okay, I get it, Larry. I'm like, good. And I'm going to keep reminding you. And number 8 is like making sure that the rights are protected. Then you go to like everything. And then, of course, the last one is the firm, making sure the firm is protected because it's, of course, on the list.
Right.
But the reason I make that spiel is because it's very unfortunate how many attorneys don't realize that the only reason they have business, the only reason a client is walking through the door is because the client believes you are there to help them. And if you don't help them, if you don't prioritize the needs of the client, like for instance, you know what the number 1 bar complaint is in the United States of America, Mark?
No.
Communication.
If I had to guess, that probably would have been high on my list.
I always thought it was money. He took my money and he didn't do the job. That's number 2. That's number 2. Number 1 is he didn't return my calls. He didn't return my texts. He didn't return my emails. I came to the office. You wouldn't see me. I'm like, that's insanity. I tell all my associates the minute you walk out of court, if the client was not there, because a lot of times they don't need to be there, text them just a quick, went to court, new court date is March 27th. Any questions, call me, text me, email me, whatever. Just that one little, bump of the shoulder, the bump of the elbow. Hey, I'm here. Immediately, because to the client, their case is the most important thing on the planet for them. They are stressed, especially in the criminal law world, even in the personal injury world. They're worried, they're stressed. They want to know what's going on with their case. If you ignore them, that not only adds to the stress, you have now become a catalyst for their stress. I mean, no, unacceptable. I made it my mission, my life's work, 11 years of practice. I have always made sure that the client is aware what's going on. And I always end the conversation with, do you have any questions for me? And when I hear that magical word, no, I do not have any questions for you. Okay, no problem. If you have any questions, do not hesitate. Call us, text us, email us, and either Stephanie or my associates or myself will talk to you and take care of it. Our answering service is there 24 hours a day to answer any questions you may have. And immediately you can literally watch on the client's face, if you're face to face, like just all anxiety just washes away. And they're like, he's got my back or she's got my back. I'm covered. I am good. And there's no better feeling for an attorney to see that, to hear that, to feel that, and to know that the client is taken care of.
Okay, that's awesome. I love that. Service sometimes seems optional in your field. So
sadly,
it's good. So tell us about your team. You told us about a couple of your team members. Kind of tell us about the rest of your team.
So we currently have 13 employees. I have to check because sometimes it changes. We had a lot of different shifts recently. I always like to joke because we had a couple of clients call in and they're really frustrated because they were in communication with the former associate of ours who left and went to go do whatever. We had a couple that just went to become prosecutors, within the last 6 months. I can't control them. They do what they want, but the client texts them and they're like, hey, so when's my court date? And they're like, well, I left Forman and Associates. You'll have to get in touch with them. And then they call me frustrated, like, well, I was told that. Why am I getting a new lawyer? Sir or ma'am, you are not getting a new lawyer. You're getting a lawyer within the same firm. They work for me. And I like to joke. I tell them, if I could control people, I think I would be a trillionaire. I would not be practicing law. So, I mean, people go and do what they want to do. So 2023, we are down 3 associates in like 6 months. And, I take things very personally because I hand select every associate. I always like to joke that if your interview does not go at least 90 minutes, you are not even a candidate to being hired. My interviews are very lengthy. My latest interview, as a matter of fact, was over 150 minutes long. It was 2.5 hours. And to me, it's like, that's normal. I don't see a problem with it. And then, of course, they were hired. I was interested and I had a lot of questions. So I can tell you as far back as July 2023, I actually had 4 associates, technically 3.5. One was part-time, but 4 associates, 1 senior associate, 2 associates, and 1 junior associate. Well, the part-time left then in July or August, I think it was August, and another one decided to just randomly quit. And I was like, okay, we can balance, we can manage. And then in January, I received an email of a third one. He's like, I'm also out. And I'm like, now I started stressing because I realized, and this is what I've done over the last 3 weeks. I came back to the practice of law. I'm driving all across the state because I need someone to cover as our new associate is learning. I love to throw her to the wolves if I can, but we have some other things that we have to sort out before she can practice. Right now, I have 1 associate. So I don't know if you've seen that scene from The Office. There's an episode where Dwight Schrute wants to get his assistant to the regional manager. And Jim says at the beginning of the episode, he goes, watch, by the end of today, I'm going to make Dwight Schrute his own assistant to the regional manager. And at the very end of the episode, Jim basically is like, Dwight, think about it. Who's the only one who can do this? And he's like, by God, you're right. And then at the end, Jim is like so proud of himself. He goes, I just made Dwight Schrute his own assistant to the regional manager. And that's me right now. I am the associate of Forman Associates and being Mr. Forman, because I have to fill in the gaps. So sometimes, February has been a little tough. I'm not going to lie. Definitely one of the toughest months because I haven't been actively doing the traveling and because we travel to all 120 counties in Kentucky. And now we also do Indiana with our newest associate. She's licensed in Indiana.
Oh, okay, great.
We also do immigration. I forgot to mention this, by the way. I have 2 associates and they're both have a decade's worth. They have combined 20 years worth of immigration experience. Okay. So I need to start reminding myself to say that more. But anyway, right now it's a little tough. But we have of counsels that always help us. I have my publicist, our maintenance, we have our shorts editor. I'm not talking about the shorts that you wear, of course. I'm talking about like TikToks and all that, long form content, long form videos. I showcase my courtroom trials. I am very transparent. And this is one of the biggest selling points of our law firm because I don't know a single lawyer in the country. I am the only lawyer that I know of in the United States of America and possibly the world, out of 8 billion people, who actively shows literally my jury trials to the public. The jury trials I try, win, lose, draw, if it's a mistrial or a hung jury. I'm very proud of my victories. I'm equally proud of my losses. I learned from them. And I don't know anybody else who does that. And that has been a very big selling point because when you carve a niche market, it draws people in because, first of all, you're entertaining. I have had just this past week, I remember somebody called and said, Larry, I've been following you for years and now I'm in trouble. Can you help me? Because I'm from Kentucky. And I said, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for being a fan and would love to represent you. And it's very fascinating.
Okay. So last question about your team. So Tell us a little bit about your leadership style over the years and how it's changed and developed over the years.
So that is a skill in and of itself. Managing people is not easy. And I have made mistakes, and I'm very proud of the mistakes that I have made because I have learned from them. Do not be afraid of screwing up. That's what life has taught me. So I remember the first associate that I hired, I did not pay them enough. I didn't do a good job managing them. First, I tried to micromanage. Then I didn't manage enough. Then I didn't provide them enough information. Then I hired a case manager who was not fit for the job. I just didn't know it yet. I mean, it was like one thing after another. And then eventually, after about a year, I kind of developed a style. There was a balance. A couple associates either were fired or left, and a couple new associates were hired to replace them. And then COVID hit and everything went to crap. So 2020, I remember I had to furlough them for like a couple of months because I didn't have work. I didn't want to fire them. I said, furlough. And then they came back at like a portion of the salary, and they were ecstatic to come back to work, even at a portion of their salary, because I didn't know what's going to happen. And then the Delta variant and the Omicron. So our firm was able to persevere, not just persevere. It's maddening to think about, but just by a sliver, we made more money during COVID than the previous year. So I don't have a single year, knock on wood, where we made less money than the previous year. So far, year to year, including COVID and the year after COVID, the gross revenue continued going up. The COVID year was just by a sliver higher than 2019. So 2020 was like 10%, but it was 10% more than the previous year. And that is insane to think about, because I remember a lot of companies were calling me saying, oh, you can basically like get free money from the government. All you have to show is you had a loss, compare quarter 3 to quarter 3 of the previous year. And I'm like, I would love to take free money, but I can't because I'm too good of a businessman. I've been doing well even when everybody was collapsing. Right. It's crazy to think about. So I'm very lucky. I'm very blessed, but I'm also very careful in whom I select to join my team. I do not, under any circumstances, for the love of God, do not hire someone that you do not think is going to be the best fit, because that is the beginning of the end. They will unintentionally, they may infest and I've heard horror stories from other firms, and I have horror stories of my own. They will infest and infect, and it's like a virus that starts spreading. And if you don't catch it, it will start poisoning. It will poison clients. They'll try to poison other associates, try to bring them to their side. And now you have, the last thing you want is to start clashing within your own camp and having to fight with your own associates to get things done. And I have had to deal with that in the beginning when I didn't know what I was doing. But as you progress, and again, I think I alluded to this and I never finished the thought. I thought within 6 months, 3 associates leave, I'm like, what did I do wrong? Because I take responsibility for my actions, and I try to take responsibility for other actions as long as it is affecting the firm, right? They left. What did I do wrong? And I spoke to each one individually in some capacity at some point in time. And I realized some of it, sure, I had my hand in, but all of them admitted, they're like, Larry, I just want to go on to do the next thing. And I realized in that moment that they just burnt out, and that's okay. I can't keep them prisoner within my own firm. They want to go and do something else. I literally told my last associate, he is now a prosecutor, literally across the street. I told him, I said, you're going to survive for 2 years. Because I know you're right now, you're burnt out. You need to regain your energy. And I said, within 2 years, you're going to come back. Maybe not to my firm. Maybe you're going to go somewhere else, but you will not want to do this for the rest of your life. And he looked at me and he said, you know what, Larry, you're probably right. But right now, this is what I need. And I said, okay, Godspeed, sir. So managing people is one of the toughest things of this job. And it definitely is not a born with skill. It's an acquired skill. Just like public speaking, just like practicing law, it's a new arena that you have to learn, because another hat that I wear is HR. I'm human resources. So.
Okay. Awesome. So we've covered a lot of ground, a lot of great examples of business practices, marketing, sales, team development, customer service that, really That's how you make a well-rounded practice. So I've got just a couple quick questions. Kind of first answer. So what is your number one key to success?
Marketing. 80% of what we do is marketing, 15% business, 5% practicing law.
Awesome. So what's one piece of business advice to other business owners that are listening in?
Make it about the client and you will flourish. Make it about the money and you will go bankrupt.
Okay. Love that. So what's a book you've read or listened to recently that you would recommend to other business owners to read?
How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie.
Oldie but goodie.
Oh, yeah. It's the only book of its kind. I have never seen a book like it.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a great book. So if I had a magic wand, I don't, by the way, but if I did.
Unfortunate, Mark. I thought
Yeah.
this interview was gonna like have a climactic event and say, congratulations, Larry, you have won the lottery and we're giving away $1 million to business owners and I'm the winner. Bummer. But hey, a man can dream.
Yeah. Well, I get those offers on Facebook all the time, though. I can pass them along to you.
The Nigerian princes, man.
Exactly.
They're the best.
Yeah. So if I had that magic wand and I could wave it over one part of your practice, what would you want me to improve for you immediately?
If there were one thing I would want to improve, if you could wave a magic wand, I wish I started advertising and telling people that we do car accidents much earlier than when I did. That would have brought a whole lot more business to our firm, I believe, and we would have been much more successful. But hey, you can't have it all.
Right. Okay. Before I get to my very last questions, where should people go to find you on YouTube?
Just Google the DUI Guy Plus with either the plus sign or PLUS. You can't miss us. We are on YouTube. We're on TikTok. We're on LinkedIn. I think I actually forgot to mention that. LinkedIn. We are on Instagram. We are on X, formerly known as Twitter.
Right.
We are on Twitch, which is not very active. And we are on Facebook, which is also not very active. But we're on every single social media, maybe with the exception of Threads, which I don't even know if that thing is successful, but whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. All right. So last question. So what inspires you the most right now?
People. You want something more specific?
No, you want to elaborate on that? What is it about people that inspire you?
I think people as groups are very dangerous. When people start assigning themselves into groups, can be very dangerous. They can be also very magical. But what I'm talking about are people as individuals. Never cease to surprise me, because a lot of times this is my favorite thing to do in the world. And this happened more times than I can tell you, Mark. I will tweet something or, X something, post something on X. Yeah. I will be live on YouTube and be talking about something, or we'll be streaming a trial. Sometimes I'll go live for 5, 6, 7, 8 consecutive hours. If there's an interesting trial or hearing going on, such as, the Murdaugh issue that came out recently, or the Murdaugh trial, the Johnny Depp trial, that was a huge one. Somebody will come in and they'll start debating and saying like, Larry, you are stupid. Like, what you're saying is stupid. This is not correct. Let me tell you what it is. Haters, trolls, we call them. Haters, trolls. And I will ask them, I'll say, I used to just block these people back in the day, years and years ago. Biggest mistake I ever made. Now I open up a dialogue. I'll say, okay, talk to me. Why do you think I'm stupid? Well, you are stupid because blah, de blah. Oh, I see. Okay, so do you disagree with blah, de blah, or does blah, de blah bother you? And they'll start conversing. No, it's because blah, de blah is da, da, da. And I'll be like, no, that's not correct. Da, da, da is not exactly blah, de blah. And they'll go, okay, well, I disagree with that. Okay, why do you disagree? And it's just a dialogue begins to happen. And all of a sudden, a hater becomes a fan, because I embrace their negative opinion. I embrace, and sometimes we will agree to disagree. They'll be like, well, I believe the government is always right, and I love the government. And Larry, the DUI guy, will say, well, don't trust the government. The government is bad. The government is dangerous. They will lie to you, and da, da, da. And now we're both like, okay, we agree to disagree, but you know what? I respect your opinion. And when they see that arm, that the extension of the arm, grab my hand, they will, a lot of times they will grab it and they'll say, you know what? You're cool. No one has ever done this to me before. And I just liked and subscribed to your channel. And they will leave a comment like, this dude is the real deal. I actually had that happen about a couple of weeks ago. And it was one of the most fascinating. And now they're a fan, and now they've been in several other streams, and they're just like, "Hey, everybody, how are you all doing?" When the first thing they said is, "You all are idiots, and you have no idea what you're talking about." That's the same person. It's mind-boggling, and people never cease to surprise me.
Oh, that's cool. Well, that's great. I'm glad I asked you to elaborate on that because that's really powerful. I can see where that can inspire and motivate you and drive you.
Definitely.
So, awesome. Well, great. So thank you so much, Larry. So, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Larry Forman. He's CEO of Forman and Associates. He's shared a lot with us. I recommend that you watch this a couple times. There's several layers of information and tidbits that he provided in there that you might not get in the first listen. So bookmark it, subscribe so that you can get other conversations that we drop after this one. And Larry, thank you so much for being with us today. Really appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, Mark. I had a lot of fun. I hope I was able to, as I like to say, I think it was Johnny Depp's quote, and I really like it. If my piece of art, he said, influenced at least one other person, my job is done. So I will end on this. If my interview with you has inspired or influenced at least one other person in some capacity, then our job is done here, Mark.
Awesome. I love that. Thanks again, and we will see you on the next interview. That's all for now.
Bye.